Hi, so I'm Rick Boddy. I'm deputy editor for the Emergency Medicine Journal at the BMJ Group, and I've reviewed for probably 20 or 30 different journals. One of the things that lots of people ask me is, how do you write a review for a scientific journal? So I'm going to give you a quick whistle-stop tour through what I think you need to do to write a good review for a journal. So here we go. First of all, you get the invitation to review, you decide to accept it, have a look at the manuscript, read through it, briefly. I skim read it initially, I have to be honest, and then once you've skim read it and kind of got an idea about what the manuscript is all about, have a think about whether you need to search the literature. Do you already know the relevant literature around this topic, or is it something that's quite unfamiliar to you? And this is an opportunity for your continuing professional development, if you can actually have a look around and see what the relevant literature is. Some journals will actually help you out by providing links that you can click on to direct you to some of the relevant literature. And you can go and find that. Other times you might want to do a PubMed search or something similar, just to find out what the relevant literature is and whether there's anything that's very similar out there already. Having done that, then read the manuscript in more detail and make some notes as you go. So you might have printed it out and you might make paper notes, you might make the way you prefer to work, or you might have a PDF and you might have a Word file next to it, or you might add sticky notes to the PDF. Everyone has their own preferred way of working, but make some notes as you go because it will really help you. Then it's time to commit your thoughts to paper, if you like. And the first thing and most important thing you've got to consider is the ethics. So is this an ethical piece of work? Have the authors got appropriate approvals in place? Have the patients, if there are patients, have they consented appropriately? Are there any equality and diversity issues? Any red flags for plagiarism or concerns about data integrity? Those are the most important things that the editor really needs to know about. Thankfully, that's very unusual. But if you do identify those concerns, we need to hear about them first of all. And then we need to go through the manuscript in the vast majority of cases in a much more detailed way. So in order to help with that, have a look at the relevant checklist. So if, for example, it's a diagnostic test accuracy study, the authors will usually have submitted the starred checklist to go with it, and that really helps you to go through the critical appraisal. Actually, the authors will direct you to where they've got the relevant parts, relevant things that need to be done for a diagnostic test accuracy study. Have a look at them and check, see if they've done everything that they ought to have done. If they've done an RCT, it will be a consort checklist. If it's an economic evaluation, it's Everest, PRISMA for a systematic review, Moose for a meta-analysis of observational studies. There's all sorts out there. Have a look at the checklist, even if the authors haven't uploaded it with their manuscript, because it will really help you to identify some of the critical issues that might be present. And then think about sources of bias. So if you're new to critical appraisal, think about using a checklist and get the checklist for that particular study type and go through that, because that will really help you to think about the important parts. And then write your review. So when you're writing your review, there are two different sections you'll see: comments for the editor and comments for the author. The comments for the editor are only seen by the editor, and the comments for the author are seen by both the editor and the author. Don't duplicate, don't just copy and paste both, because that's not particularly helpful. You might not have many comments for the editor, you might not have any, but it does give you an opportunity just to tell the editor what you think, a succinct summary of what you thought of the manuscript, and you can kind of interpret those comments you made. You're not asked to make a decision about whether the manuscript should be accepted or rejected. But this allows you to give the editor a bit of a steer. Actually, I don't think that these things can be revised appropriately if we go for a revision. Or actually, I really like this piece, and if the authors had a chance to just revise this or that element, I think that it would make a decent contribution. Those kind of comments are very helpful for the editors. And then we write the comments for the author. Really importantly, actually, just going back to the comments for the editor, don't write things in the comments for the editor, particularly about criticisms of the manuscript, that you don't also refer to in the comments for the author. So sometimes I get reviews where there are really important criticisms in the comments for the editors, but then in the comments for the authors, it's very, very complimentary. So then if we choose to reject the manuscript on the basis of those flaws, the authors think that they've had a fantastic review and the editors have been awful in rejecting the paper. Actually, the authors need to have the benefit of that constructive feedback too. So don't throw any new things into the editors that you hadn't also told the authors about. In the comments for the authors, I personally would structure it as follows. I'd give you a brief summary, then I'd talk about critical points, so fatal flaws, things that really are important, and perhaps the things that you perhaps think can't be addressed, that are fundamental flaws to the work that's being done. Major points, so they're the things that really you think have to be addressed in order for this to be taken forward. And then minor points, and you might include in the minor points things like typos and grammatical errors, or it might be things that actually really bug you but are not necessarily essential for the authors to address in any revision. And then don't feel you need to write a complete essay. You don't have to pull every paper apart. That's not the point of peer review. Some papers are really good, in which case you can afford to be complimentary. Talk about the strengths as well as the limitations. It's nice to be constructive and acknowledge the good things as well as the bad things in a paper. So commend the authors where it's appropriate to do so. And then in the comments for the authors, essentially as within that sort of format I've talked about, comment on everything in turn. So is this paper relevant to the readership of the journal? Are the objectives clearly stated and are they meaningful? Does it actually matter why this work is done? Does it have implications for anybody? Are the methods clearly described? Are there any important sources of bias? And if so, are they just limitations that we have to accept, or are they fatal flaws? Are the results presented clearly? Are they in sufficient detail? Does the text duplicate tables and figures? We don't want to do that. We don't want duplication. The text should complement the tables and the figures. And can we really interpret them? Is there enough there, or is it too much there? Moving on to the discussion, is it unbiased? Does it discuss the findings in conjunction with previous findings of other research? Does it appropriately identify the implications of this work? And does the discussion section appropriately acknowledge limitations and discuss how that might affect the conclusions that we might draw and implications for future work? And then finally, the conclusions, really importantly, are they fair or are they biased? Are they appropriate based on the data that's being presented? So that's really how to do it. A few things to avoid. Don't make personal comments. Make it objective, keep it scientific, talk about the manuscript, but don't talk about the authors. Don't shamelessly self-promote yourself. Don't ask them, insist that they cite your work. Sometimes it's appropriate to direct authors towards one of your own publications. It may be that they missed it, but don't insist on shameless self-citation. That's not a good idea. Don't take too long for your review without informing the editorial office. Sometimes we're all busy, it goes a little bit too long, we go over the timelines, but if it's going a lot over the timelines, please just let the editorial office know about the delay and whether you're going to be able to complete that review. Don't write angry responses to the automated reminders from the editorial team. They are just automated reminders, they will come. It's not a criticism of you, just a helpful reply you need a little bit longer would be really helpful for us. Don't write the review in a bad mood. That can really lead you to be overcritical. If you're feeling in a bad mood, just come back to it another time when you're fresh. You could draft your review, but make sure you don't send it. Just save it and come back to it when you're feeling a bit better. And sometimes manuscripts do get you in a bad mood for a variety of different reasons. So just let things chill out a little bit and send it when you're feeling a bit more placid. Don't accept a review when you've got a clear conflict of interest. If you've got a personal involvement with the authors, if you've got a financial conflict of interest, don't accept the manuscript if it's not appropriate to do so. If you think you can still review it impartially, just declare that interest when you submit your review. That could be in the comments to the editor, or there could be somewhere else for you to talk about competing interests. And that includes if you're doing similar research in that area, because it's another potential source of bias and conflict in your writing your review. Please do keep the reviews confidential. It's submitted to the journal. It's not intended for dissemination. You should really keep that confidential. Don't tell anybody else about it. And big no, don't take the idea and just do it yourself. That's not the idea of peer review. I can't prove that that's ever happened, but make sure you're not doing that. And that's it really. It doesn't need to be overly complicated as a process. It's a very, very good thing to do. It builds up your CV. It allows you to get good at critical appraisal. at writing your own work. So it's a great thing to contribute to. It's done usually out of the kindness of your heart, but there is something in it for you too. And of course, the best reviewers are often identified as potential editors, and that's how I got an opportunity to edit for the Emergency Medicine Journal. So hope that was useful. Take care. See you again soon.